Alright, it's go time. Arcane Mage.
Vastly outnumbered mortals. The Forsworn have cut a swath through most of our forces. Vanquish their guard while I confront Devos.
So the Arcane Mage is definitely different from the Shadowlands version in a couple ways. You no longer get the arcane power ability to God damn it. My timing. So you no longer get the arcane power ability to increase your damage for like 10 seconds or whatever it was. Instead, you get Arcane Surge. So what Arcane Surge does is it does increase your damage a bit, but it also does damage, and it increases your mana regeneration. So it's like half an evocation type of thing as far as how much mana it ends up giving you. And yeah, evocation is no longer baseline. So we'll look at the tree in a second here. So here's that new Arcane Surge, which essentially replaces Arcane Power. So yeah, like I said, it does a lot of AoE damage. It uses up all your current mana though to do that. And then it gives you a bunch of mana regeneration and spell damage. With this talent, it lasts longer and gives you more spell damage. So you really want that talent, both for the mana regeneration and the spell damage parts of it.
You cannot hide.
But general trash pack stuff, you're still doing lots of arcane explosions, but Arcane Orb is something that you get early on the tree now. So so you can throw that into your single target into your AoE damage rotation. Specifically, you also get the talent where it's got 2 charges of it. So right there, I just did my Arcane Surge thing. And yeah.
Your doom takes flight.
Mana Gem is a talent on the tree now. And there's a talent. So Mana Gem got big buffs basically. It used to only be like 10% of your mana, now it's 25% of your mana. And there's also a talent where it gives you 2 stacks of clear casting. I'm just kind of getting creative here since I'm out of mana. So yeah, you still do get mana problems. My current aim. Crit verse. Crit mastery. We'll roll away this amulet if somebody wants it. I'm currently not wearing my amulet because I don't want to be over geared for this. Two target situations still kind of like should really be doing single target damage for 2 targets. We'll just use my Arcane Surge here. So that'll give me that mana regeneration.
Listen to reason,
By the time we get over
the
here,
Kyrian must stand
kind of
united.
sort of a waste in that I didn't really get the use
Not
of the
so
damage out of
long
it.
as you command them. The
Well, my team's
Forsworn
being
will
slow
forge a new
anyways.
path for Bastion.
What am I doing? 3 targets, AoE damage. What's even going on? This guy's basically AFK. Oh, this guy needs the do this.
For eons, we have been told to purify ourselves, to let go of our memories, our identities, our loved ones, all in the name of science. But what do we serve?
Yeah,
Impotent
so
arbiter, an oppressive
AoE
law.
damage,
Our
couple
sacrifices were
arcane
made for
orbs with arcane barrage, and then the normal arcane explosion, arcane barrage spam. Single target, just do an arcane blast. Use the clear cast arcane missiles. And works out pretty good. Let's do this a second. So yeah, let's see what else we got going on as far as comparing the current Arcane Mage with the old Arcane Mage. A lot of the ways plays the same. Still have mana problems. Haste. You have less mana problems with Arcane Surge being giving you mana regen instead of it used to give you mana cost reduction of your abilities. The mana regen works out better. This. He's cycling them for some reason. So yeah, the Arcane Surge, as well as the mana gem buff, means,
This is where you meet your
like I said,
end.
I'm not getting the evocation on the left side of the tree there.
You cannot match my alacrity. Witness radiance.
So I think haste isn't as bad because of
My celerity is second to none.
we're killing this boss faster than I thought. I didn't get around to using my Arcane Surge because the boss died. But yeah, we
Sacrifice because we must. Mortal burdens would only impede our sacred
because
duty.
there's a little bit less mana problems, haste isn't as bad of a stat as it used to be. I still think it's the worst stat though. Also because mana regen hasn't really been as much of a problem to me, the mastery doesn't feel as much the best stat as it used to be. So yeah, there's still mana problems, but not as much of a mana problem, so it kind of shifts the importance of the stats, I think. So yeah, single target. We're still using we're still using Touch of the Magi to instantly get the 4 arcane charges, because Arcane Blast still has that problem where it starts off slow on the damage. Let's do this. So yeah, Arcane Blast still starts off slow, and low damage, and works its way up along with the mana cost. So no change there. So because of that, the the Touch of the Magi, still use that to get your arcane charges up for single target. Alright. Let's not stand by anybody. What the fuck's this guy doing? trying to stand away from him so that if he gets targeted with that thing, I don't have to move. I get really frustrated sometimes by people playing bad. Let's use our this guy, and missiles. Didn't notice I was out of mana gem there.
You must be annihilated.
Dealing the damage. Gotta love clear casting.
I can still fight.
As I peered into Uther's memories, what I saw shook me to the core. But you refuse to see the truth. That the path is flawed. That we serve a lie. And so,
Whoops.
I listened to the
I
jailer's
wanted to
words.
try
I learned
Presence of
the
Mind.
great
It used to be
injustice
3
you
arcane blasts are
thrust
instant.
upon him,
Now it's only
and
2.
upon us all.
So definitely nerfed.
He seeks to free us from the prison we have built for ourselves. And
But I
for
did want
that,
to try it.
he has earned.
Compared to
And I mourn your
compared to
betrayal.
other talents. Seemed like it still might be worth getting. But yeah, exact talent build, kind of experimental still. Guess we should probably use this one. Could use my Arcane Surge, but it's yeah, I was hoping I'd be able to eat while this guy takes forever to pull for some reason. Oh, maybe the tank disconnected. Oops.
Accept your defeat, Archon. I serve a far greater power now. The age of the Forsworn is at hand. I will take control of the
We'll just go
spires
straight to
and forge
Arcane
new
Surging.
pathways to lead the Kingdom.
Used the Touch of the Magi there. I should have used that before the Arcane Surge, but I wasn't thinking.
You must be stopped.
So Arcane Surge doesn't give you
No
the
matter the cost.
arcane charges if you don't have them. We'll use our Rune of Power right away here. When she's up in the air, that'll be time for cooldowns to come back.
Bastion itself. Perish among the clouds.
Mortals, take up my spear.
This spear shall pierce your heart!
Whoops.
I control the power.
Completely forgot the time warp. I got the auto time warp from a talent thing there.
The winds howl in rage.
The spear! Use it to bring her down!
No! The path must be abandoned.
The jailer's schemes have torn
really need
a
that, do
schism
I?
in the ranks of the Kyrian, one that must be healed. Long have we believed that our mortal lives are burdens to be shed in the name of service. And yet, the deeds of mortals are what won the day. You have my gratitude. Once the jailer lies defeated, there may be much for the Kyrian to discuss.
Alright. Not log out. Leave it.
Nathrius' elite forces hold this ward, and will strike at us from here unless routed.
Look at that flight point. Whoops. Hold on, man. I go to page 1 with my favorites. Got a map Shadowlands. So yeah. We did ourselves a bunch of good damage. Let's see here. Lots of Arcane Blast. Lots of Arcane Barrage. Lots of Arcane Missiles. Interesting, actually. I didn't think Arcane Barrage would be up that high. Usually I see Arcane Explosion being higher. Huh. Wonder why that is. Usually Arcane Explosion is higher. Maybe I'm just Arcane Orbing more than I realize. Because you look at the damage of Arcane Explosion, it's on my character here, it's 1400 damage, and it'll give you 1 arcane charge, or with this talent somewhere. If Arcane Explosion hits at least 3 targets, it has a 50% chance to generate an extra arcane charge. So I still like that talent quite a lot. Because it gets you to the arcane barrage damage faster. And then compared to Shadowlands, I think the extra damage to targets less than 35% health on Arcane Barrage. I think that was like a legendary power or something before. It was a Azerite power in Battle for Azeroth before that, of course. But that boosts your Arcane Barrage damage up quite a bit for the dungeons on those trash packs. So that's why the Arcane Barrage damage is really up there. Maybe the trash packs were just dying too quick for me to do as much arcane explosion damage as I usually do. Because yeah, you definitely prioritize the arcane orb over the arcane explosion. Just because you get instant 4 charges of arcane, 4 arcane charges from 1 arcane orb if you're hitting 3 or more targets with it. So that's what lets you do for your AoE damage rotation, as you saw. You start off with Arcane Orb to get your Arcane charges up, then your Arcane Barrage, then your Arcane Orb again, Arcane Barrage, and then you go to your standard Arcane Explosion, Arcane Barrage spam until you get down to 2 or fewer targets. Then Arcane Explosion isn't too good anymore. In this case, you would just finish them off with Fire Blast and Arcane Missiles if the Fire Blast didn't kill him. But let's say it was something tougher still, then 1 or 2 targets left. Then you are using Touch of the Magi to get your arcane charges up back up to 4 so that you can arcane blast them. But obviously when you have the clear casting, you can go right to the magic missiles when you have the clear casting. We saw on one of the boss fights, I think it was the first boss fight, where my Arcane Surge mana regen part stuff, that was on cooldown, and also I'd used the mana gem. Because like I'd used the Arcane Surge at the start of the fight for a big burst of damage. But it's kind of wasteful. It's kind of wasteful in the long term, in that you're out of your whole mana bar. You'll get a lot more damage actually casting your spells than blowing it on Arcane Surge. Arcane Surge is great for the AoE damage, and so I specifically used it at the start of that boss fight because it's like a 2 boss thing where they have shared health. So if you're doing a big AoE thing like Arcane Surge to both of them, then it's it does a lot against that boss, but it's still was kind of wasteful. If I had just started off the boss fight instead of doing Arcane Surge, which drops Rune of Power for you, instead of doing that at the start of the boss fight, if I did Rune of Power and then did a bunch of damage and then once I run out of mana, I'm not really going to run out of mana here, this current rate. But the standard thing to do is once you run out of mana, then you Arcane Surge. To get your mana back. So you get a lot less damage out of the Arcane Surge, because when you do it that way, the amount of damage of the Arcane Surge is based on how much mana gets used by it. So you get less damage out of it like that. But then your mana pool lasts a lot longer as compared to blowing all your mana at the start of the fight and then having to having to mana gem, and then once your mana is gone, then you're sitting around waiting for Arcane Surge to come back off a cooldown. So like in this case, we go Arcane Surge to get some mana, and then doing a bunch of damage. Our mana regen outperforms the mana that we're spending with the Arcane Blast while Arcane Surge is up. And then hopefully the boss is dead before you're out of mana again with both Arcane Surge and Mana Gem on cooldown. Interesting. Seems like Conjure Mana Gem is bugged. Well, Mana Gem's got a couple problems, but let me try that again. Okay, that time it definitely used mana. Seemed like the previous time it didn't use mana. Was it like when I was in combat it doesn't use mana? Let's spend some mana here. Wait, why am I doing this? If I spend mana, then it's harder to tell if it uses mana. That was dumb. Alright. Conjure Mana Gem. Yeah, it seems like Conjure Mana Gem doesn't spend mana while in combat. That's really weird. Let's try again. Oh my god. I don't want a difficult fight. Shit. Yeah, hopefully I can kill this guy. Alright. Your mana gem while in combat. Does it use mana? Okay, that time it used mana. I was hoping to get some reproducible steps here for this bug report. But apparently... What? I guess I'll have to bug report it later. Yeah, apparently Conjure Mana Gem does not always use mana, it seems. Don't know what's up. Oh, I totally forgot I could have just invisibility myself out of that fight. Yeah. So let's look at all these good talents. We already kind of talked about the main damage rotation type of stuff, but I didn't go too much into talents here. So the general mage talent tree is kind of weird. It's basically it's got a bunch of cold frost mage type of stuff on the left side of the tree, and a bunch of fire mage type stuff on the right side of the tree, especially at the bottom here. Shifting power is like it benefits the frost mage the most. And then these ones are obviously fire spells, particularly though Dragon's Breath benefits the fire mage the most because there's a talent where it'll always crit and contributes to the hot streak thing, so that fire mages do lots more damage. But ultimately it's really a PvP type of ability. Is why it's in this tree. Because people would Dragon's Breath into well, they would like Dragon's Breath the healer just to CC the healer, but also to they would do things where you would like follow it up with more CC, like Polymorph or the Ring of Frost, which is over here now. So those things are available to any mage, sort of, but for Arcane Mage, because haste isn't as bad as anymore, the talent I go for down here now is at any moment you have a chance to gain Arcane Surge for 6 seconds, Clear Casting, or Time Warp for 6 seconds. And I didn't like that in Shadowlands. It was Arcane Power instead of Arcane Surge, of course. But what I didn't like about it in Shadowlands was because haste was so bad, Time Warp doesn't really help you. It just helps you run out of mana faster. And then Arcane Power, because it didn't give you mana regeneration. It was also in Shadowlands it wasn't clear casting, it was evocation. So you get mana back. So what I didn't like was it was worse in Shadowlands because of haste was worse, but also if you got Arcane Power when you were outside of combat, it like felt really bad. Whereas here, if you get Arcane Surge while outside of combat, like you're getting the regen and the clear casting. When it gives you free clear casting, that's pretty awesome. So I really like that now. I still don't like Time Warp for the Arcane Mage. I still think that's ultimately that's really shitty. And they should still do some things with the hastes to not be so bad, because you run out of mana. But ultimately that talent's a lot better than it was, so that's why I'm using it. Most of these other talents in the general mage tree I don't think are too important. You definitely want Rune of Power to do big AoE damage. For single target boss fight stuff, I don't think Rune of Power is that important, because you're doing damage, you're doing like consistent damage over the long term type of thing, more so than other classes that do more burst damage. But for a single target, Arcane Mage is fairly consistent DPS. But you want the Rune of Power really for those trash pulls. Because you're going to be using it. It's on a 45-second cooldown, so you want to use it during the trash pulls, basically whenever you can. Which means the trash pulls, you use the Rune of Power like I was doing, and then you do your big AoE stuff, which like I showed already, you do the Arcane Orb, which will give you max arcane charges, then you Arcane Barrage, then you Arcane Orb again, Arcane Barrage again, and then you can go about doing your Arcane Explosion spam, and then Arcane Barrage at max stacks. You can also throw in Touch of the Magi there, if you want, in AoE situations, because I'd really rather find a good AoE situation here to demonstrate this better. So let's find a few dudes. Alright, so Rune of Power, here's your burst, is the Rune of Power. You could use the Touch of the Magi first, would work out pretty well, because then it's accumulating the Touch of the Magi damage for you to... Those died too fast for me to show the full combo. Shit. Yeah, so you Rune of Power, the Touch of the Magi, since it accumulates damage you deal to the target and then explodes, it's definitely something, if you're gonna end up using it as part of your AoE burst damage rotation thing, you want to use it up front. So use it up front. Sorry, I didn't even do that right. So use it up front to get your arcane charges. So you're at full arcane charges, so you Arcane Barrage, and then you Arcane Orb. I'm like lagging or something. So then you Arcane Orb, and then your charges will be back up. Then you Arcane Barrage, then you Arcane Orb, then you Arcane Barrage, then you spam Arcane Explosions, and then you Arcane Barrage. But the reason I don't usually use Touch of the Magi at the start for AoE on the trash packs in the dungeon is because when you get to the situation where there's only 1 or 2 enemies left, then Arcane Explosion isn't very good damage for 1 or 2 enemies, and it doesn't give you the bonus chance for an extra arcane charge when there's only 2 enemies. So the problem is you don't want to cast your zero charge and your 1 charge arcane blasts because they're so slow. So I like to save Touch of the Magi. Find another guy. So I like to save Arcane Magi so that when you're out of so that after your final Arcane Barrage and there's only 1 or 2 guys left, then you Touch the Magi to get your charges up so that you can instantly go into the big single target damage. I already looked at my damage breakdown. Yeah. I was like, oh shit, I'm messing up my damage meters, but I looked at that already. So yeah. So that's why I saved Touch of the Magi to for killing those last 1 or 2 enemies. Yeah. So presence of mind, the talent, like I said, it used to be 3 instant cast arcane blasts, but now it's only 2. So if you didn't have Touch of the Magi available, instead of casting your slow arcane blasts, you can use presence of mind to make the first 2 instant, so that you get a couple charges, so the remaining ones aren't so slow and painful. But yeah, like I keep mentioning, it got nerfed, so definitely not so great anymore. I'm not really a fan of that anymore. And it's still not as useful as like it's still a lot slower than Touch of the Magi, just instantly getting 4 arcane charges. So yeah, not that great. I think even with 3 instant classed arcane blasts, it's not really that useful. Because the instant cast, when you have full arcane charges, doesn't really do a whole lot. Your arcane blast is still like a 1. Mine says 1.4 with haste. If you have, depending on how much haste you have, it could be even shorter. But let's say 1.4 second cast arcane blast, compared to an instant cast arcane blast. Instant cast is instant, of course, but it still has the global cooldown, which is like 1 second. So the DPS increase of instant cast arcane blasts doesn't really help you much as far as PvP or PvE situations goes. And then also for instant casts are generally also useful for casting while moving. But with the talent to clear cast arcane missiles while moving, or if you need to move, you just blink instead. It's just generally presence of mind just isn't that useful. So currently I'm testing with it, but I don't think it's that good. What else are we got here? Took Ice Nova. I'm not. There's a bunch of stuff on here I don't really use. Ice Nova is like a ranged Frost Nova. It's oh hell no. Ice Nova is like a ranged Frost Nova, but it only roots the enemies for 2 seconds. So it's not terribly useful. But I'm just kind of messing around here on the talents, since I don't really like most of these. Blast Wave's kind of cool. It's a AoE knockback and slows the enemies. But you know, for dungeons, not really that useful most of the time. So yeah, there's a bunch of utility type stuff in here that isn't very important for dungeons. Everybody's gonna get ice block. I don't know if you can even skip getting ice block, because if you go here, you have to spend 8 talent points to get down here. So I don't like ice block. It looks like you can technically skip it, but I don't like ice block. So some of the trees, they'll give you stuff like this, and you can't actually skip an ability because you just need more points to get to the next tier. In this case, yeah, you can skip ice block, but it'll definitely save you quite a bit. It's just too important to skip, but I still don't like that it's available to all mages, especially with so little investment, and that it's not really better for the cross mage. So yeah, ice blocks important. Rune of Power is important. Alter Time is it's really strong, really good ability. Not necessarily important for dungeons, but definitely very good to have. Especially when you're doing that big AoE damage, you can use Alter Time before you start using that big AoE damage in case you accidentally pull aggro off the tank type of thing. Then you can alter time to get your health back, save yourself like that. Or you could just ice block, but yeah. And remove curses from a friendly target. I like to have spell steals over here. That's really good. Apart from those, these talents all kind of suck in my opinion. I don't really think most of them are very good or very like compelling. So it's just kind of like points that you have to spend to get down to the one down here where you get free clear casts and Arcane Surge and Time Warp. So yeah, not a big fan of that talent tree. And then for this talent tree, evocations over here. Like I keep saying, I'm not grabbing an evocation. If you were to grab evocation, then it would be less mana problems for the Arcane Mage for sure. It just seems inferior to Mana Gem currently. Seems that way because the Mana Gem passive here to get clear casting stacks. Whereas the passive here for evocation seems pretty weak to me. The other thing is evocation gives you mana, and then it gives you an intellect bonus. So it's like basic generic damage increase. But the thing is, it doesn't. That damage increase would combo well with the old arcane power, but with the new arcane surge, you don't want to use evocation and then with this damage increase then cast Arcane Surge, because Arcane Surge is going to delete all the mana that you just evocated. So I feel like that talent for evocation is really bad right now, compared to the mana gem one. Now the mana gem talent is actually bugged at the moment, so I need to. It won't let me use the mana gem unless I've used some mana. So let's do that. That was not the plan. Let me get rid of the clear casting here. So I'm gonna use my mana gem, and it's gonna give me my 2 clear casting stacks. And you're gonna see when I use this clear cast arcane missiles. Wait, did that actually work? Might have actually worked. I wasn't. I need a higher health target for this, really. Let me find a higher health target. We gotta wait for the mana gem to come off of cooldown. Let's see what else is there. These talents over here. We're definitely getting a bunch of stuff for clear casting. As soon as we get another point for Dragonflight, I want to get this one here to cause. Oh my god. Let me just invis.
Denathrius's elite forces
We will wait for the
and will strike at us from here unless routed.
for the mana gem to come off cooldown. So yeah, I want this one so that it's a chance for your clear casting to not be consumed, which will sort of it'll basically give you free extra clear casts per se. I don't know why they didn't just make it give you free extra clear casts, but that's just the way they decided to implement it, I guess. So that'll be really good. I can't get it right now unless I get rid of arcane barrage damage to enemies at low health, or the mana gem clear casting thing, because if I take away a point somewhere else on the tree, then I don't have enough for this tier. So I'm kind of stuck with this right now. These points feel kind of wasteful, so for now they could definitely be spent somewhere else. But I'm just leaving them here because I definitely want to spend that point next, and I'll probably get this. But yeah, overall, definitely getting lots of clear casting stuff, and you really need the clear casting. Arcane missiles fires 3 additional missiles. So yeah, like clear cast while moving, it's clear cast stacks up to 2 additional times. These things are all really important for single target damage. And then some of this other stuff, I don't know why. So it's like a weird thing with the talent tree, where they just like kind of randomly, it's like a dartboard type of thing where they just kind of randomly put some things that are like unrelated next to each other on the talent tree. So that's what I hate about the talent tree right now, is you have stuff like increases arcane missiles damage by 20% right here. It's like, why is this right here where it makes more sense to be over here with the other clear cast arcane missiles kind of stuff? So there's a bunch of weird stuff with these talent trees like that, where it's like, okay, why is this here? Why is this not somewhere else? Type of thing. So it feels kind of arbitrary. But yeah. There's a bunch of other things on here that don't seem very good to me. But they're probably okay for like PvP. But generally, don't feel good to me. And then there's this one: standing still for 10 seconds grants you foresight, allowing you to cast while moving for 4 seconds. It's like, okay, but how often are you going to be standing still for 10 whole seconds? Usually there's going to be like something you need to move for before then. You like, obviously if you're doing Rune of Power, that lasts 12 seconds, but still I often have to move before getting the full use of the Rune of Power. So it's like stuff like that seems like they need to kind of let me just put it this way. There's definitely feels like some talents are underpowered and some are probably overpowered. But yeah, I generally won't complain about the overpowered ones. I think it's kind of a problem for noobs who can't recognize an overpowered talent, so then they end up skipping it, and then they're missing out on a important part of their class, essentially. Like, you could skip Arcane Surge if you wanted to, for example. But it would be a bad idea. So there's definitely talents like that. Or like I was saying, Clearcast Arcane Missiles fires 3 extra missiles. There's definitely talents like this where it's like, I can't imagine ever making a build with this talent tree and not getting that talent. But the game does let you skip them, so it's like, do they need to nerf this, or do they need to... I don't know. Definitely issues. The one over here for getting extra arcane orb stuff sounded really cool. Haven't tried it yet. But basically you end up firing lots more arcane orbs. But it's like a single target thing, so it's probably, I don't know, it's probably not so good. So, well, there's 2 parts of it. One is consuming clear casting reduces the cooldown of arcane orb by 2 seconds. So because Arcane Explosion still consumes clear casting, which I still don't like, that is that's still a useful thing for AoE damage, but for casting arcane missiles, gives you just a free arcane orb to shoot at your target. That's kind of weird to me. Because overall, Arcane Orb for single target doesn't do that much. So it's like half an Arcane Blast at full charges or something for single target damage. So it's it seems really weak for single target. It's probably okay for multiple targets. So I don't know. It could be interesting. Doesn't seem like it'd be that good. And then the Radiant Spark thing down here. Radiant Spark, the damage it gives you is really weak without this passive point down here. In which case it does some stuff for AoE. Where the optimal rotation would be, because it's each time an enemy's hit by damage, you don't want to use it with arcane missiles, you use it with arcane blasts. But it's a lot like once you have this, it's a lot like Touch of the Magi, where you're doing single target damage and it kind of splashes to nearby enemies. But it's just better to just do pure AoE damage to the enemies than to do a bunch of single target damage. So it's like I don't think it's very good. So yeah, ultimately I really want to get down to this part of the tree is my goal for the Dragonflight. Yeah, I ended up talking a lot more, and we still gotta look at that bug with the mana gem where
Denathrius's elite forces hold this war. Strike at us from here unless routed.
So we're gonna use the mana gem to get mana. So now we have 2 stack. We somehow ended up with 3 stacks of clear casting. I must have got the free one from that talent. Well, anyways, ultimately the thing is there's a bug with the mana gem where if you it gives you 2 clear casting stacks, but the first one that you use, there's a bug where it won't it'll use your clear casting stack and your arcane missiles won't cost mana, but it'll only shoot the 5 arcane missiles instead of the 8 that you should have from this talent. So there's some kind of problem there. I've already submitted the bug report for that issue. But yeah, in general, on not just the Arcane Mage, but all the talent trees, there's definitely like balance issues and bugs and like tooltip errors, lots of little problems with the talent trees. But I think all the classes, all the specs I've played so far, which is like 3/4 of them, they I like the new talent trees better than the previous talent system. I don't know what exactly they call that talent system, but yeah. Yeah, I've been rambling way too much on this. People probably got bored and stopped watching the video, but yeah, the the dungeon gameplay is slightly different on the rotations for the Arcane Mage, but you still do plenty of good damage. Still can run out of mana, but it's not as much of a problem as before.